And my parents still get junk mail at the house in Ohio for Ben Breeze.
Wow. I know a drag queen named Wendy Breeze.
All right.
Maybe Wendy Breeze?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every single day. I am Evan Irwin, and we begin as we do each week by introducing my two co-hosts, if I can get the words out. Aaron
You
Campbell.
almost had it that time, too. Sorry.
Hey, everybody.
Reuben Bressler.
Oh, shalom! Yeah, I'm going to do the different language this week because...
Wow.
Nice.
Come on, Passover.
Right.
I just hate saying the word introducing. I can never get it out when I'm doing the kind of the spiel. That said, we begin as we do each week with the first pick, and I want to start before we really kind of get going. We're starting to see pictures come out of all the wonderful patrons who got all the wonderful swag. Every patron who had an address in their account and was an active patron got sent some swag. They got sent a water bottle and some magnets and some stickers because you guys are great. We love your support. Thank you very much. You're awesome.
You.
Good.
And there's going to be another one of those mailings. I want to do those a couple times a year, and our newest and greatest swag and whatever I kind of have laying around with Magic Mics on it that we'll be able to send to people. So if you're a patron, get your address in your account, first of all, because I couldn't send it to people I didn't have the address for. And secondly, we'll be able to make some cool stuff and send it to you later. However, and that starts with kind of a giveaway. Now, we begin noticing that, on Tuesday morning, this thing
We had
showed
such
up.
a good spoiler, you guys. It was so good that somebody else spoiled it.
And do you know how hard it was to keep that in? Like when the other
did
two
that for
gods were
3
spoiled
weeks.
and we had to hold it in and be like, we saw people going, like when Hazmat got spoiled, the pervert, they were like, oh, are all the gods going to be discarded? And we just had to sit on our hands and be like, I can't say anything.
Nope.
And yeah.
What does the green one do? I wonder if it has Death Touch. Maybe it has Trample, and I'm just like,
Yeah, maybe. Could
really,
be.
really good.
And then they were like, hey, check out new Heliod. Better than first Heliod. And we were like, that's also medium. And then we just had to keep watching the gods. And then someone else was like, oh my god, the green god. And we're like, yeah, but wait, hold on. Well, look, it's going to happen. We talk about the spoilers when other people get spoiled It's going to happen. Like, this is a fact of life.
It is a fact of life. It's just, again, at this point, Wizards is so good at keeping those, those leaks under wrap. They've done a great job. I mean, I came from back in the day when I knew Dissension spoilers and Ravnica was being spoiled. Like, it was crazy.
Right.
There was just total madness. So, to get this, and again, the god is so good. So, we did get some exclusive previews. We have 5 cards that you have never seen before tonight. And let's go ahead and get started with what the first thing kind of Wizards did for us, was to give us the Invocation version of Rhonas. So on the screen now you have Rhonas the Indomitable, and we might as well talk about the spoiler. It's a green and 2 generic mana for a 5/5 mythic legendary god. It has Death Touch, it's indestructible, it can't attack or block unless you control another creature with power 4 or greater. For a green and 2 generic mana, another target creature gets +2/+0 and gains trample until end of turn. This card is bananas. If we had to explain it, if the internet hadn't already kind of found out and figured out, this card is bananas.
Yeah.
This card is the Stone Cold Nutter Butters. This card is going to be an absolute monster. In standard, maybe other formats, the fact you can find this thing off Collected Company is huge. You wild size every turn.
Oh my god.
This card is ridiculous. Like
the Collected Company hadn't occurred to me.
You know what? The real thing that kind of tips over any of the gods, honestly, like this one in particular, but any of the gods, is that they're always creatures. That was the difference. In Theros, those cards were cool. They were undercosted for their incredible power and toughnesses, but you had to turn them on. These are always on. All these benefits for having high power, high toughness, or whatever, like those are there. This is the ultimate fighter. You fight anything, it is dead. It doesn't matter. Oh, my guy, my indestructible Death Touch god, kills whatever it is I want to kill, which is amazing.
Not to mention the Death Touch Trample combo of just those 2 abilities working together. In case you guys haven't come across that one in a while, all you have to do is assign the 1 damage and then trample over for the rest. Yeah, this card's the best god. It is of the 5 that are in this set. It just is the best god, and we're happy that we have the Invocation, and one of you will have the Invocation.
That's right.
Right?
That's correct. And so I'll be while you guys are going to talk about spoilers. I'm going to go create the contest because I forgot.
Oh,
because I'm good.
Okay.
Like, you remember before 10 minutes before the show, I was like, "Man, we're good to go. We got all stuff in order. I got these slides ready to go. We're going to talk about some cards. It's going to be great." Whatever.
We have so many spoilers to talk about that it's fine. So we'll talk about the ones we have.
Right.
How about the 5 that we got? Because Wizards felt bad that we got snaked because it's a snake. The 5 that we got in response. And then once we're talking about real spoilers, then you can go make the thing.
I'll go make the thing.
Yeah, we got this.
It's cool. I know you guys got it. I know it's cool. Do what you do. So the Invocation version is great because we were not going to get the Invocation version. We were going to get the real spoiler version, and then they spoil the Invocation later or however they would like to. So that is very much appreciated. Up next, we have what is probably easily a first pick, first pack every time. In Oketra's Attendant. It's 2 white and 3 generic mana for an uncommon bird soldier. It is a 3/3 flyer, so it's a 5 mana 3/3 flyer. It has cycling of 2 generic mana, and it has embalm of 2 white and 3 generic mana. So this card is good early and good late and super fantastic. And if you just cast it for 5 mana, you're basically going to get it right back the next turn. It has evasion, it has the right power and toughnesses. This is, again, we're not talking about standard, we're not talking about older formats, but for the limited environment, the fact that we have this awesome bird soldier and we've got this really cool token is fantastic. Reuben?
Yeah, this card's fantastic. There's a ton of 5 mana 3/3 flyers, and they're very often like 5th picks. Sometimes you'll find one like I think that there's like a Windspire Drake or whatever in Future Sight that was a really good common that you would pick slightly earlier. Most of them aren't first pickable. This one is first pickable. This one is 100% just put it in your deck first pick. I can't imagine a much better 5 mana white card in a limited deck. I mean, if you compare it to like Sarah Angel, I guess you're going to be a tad disappointed sometimes, but this is 2 bodies, and if you can cut down on lands in your deck while still having a 5/5 because it cycles still. So you can cycle it and only get 1 body, or you can get 2 bodies in the late game. This card is fantastic. I'm super excited about playing this card.
Aaron?
I'm not even gonna beat around the bush. Can I see the zombie version like that?
Can we just?
That's what I'm here for. I want the zombie bird.
Let me tell you, those wings are creepy.
Oh,
they're so creepy.
So, I want to kind of talk about. So this is
beautiful. This
beautiful.
looks like a labyrinth monster.
I think this is beautiful, but I do want to build off what Reuben said, though. One of the skill thresholds, we talk about scry being one of those abilities that you really need to, be able to scry well. And I feel like there's a level of skill that comes along with cycling as well, where, people talk about things like the green artifact destruction spell, and we also have the red Anger of the Gods cycling version, which has just been released. And, a lot of times you cycle something thinking you're not going to use it. But, this is the first creature that I believe we've seen so far, and there may be more, that gives you cycling and gives you embalm. So let's say you cycle this, maybe you don't quite have the mana yet. Sometimes there is that feeling of, well, what if I need this spell? I've just lost my opportunity to cast this. But you haven't. You can cycle this when things aren't looking so good, when you don't have the mana for it. And when the time is right, you can bring it back. And I love that. Like, I love taking that risk or taking that decision tree away from cycling cards, knowing that you can just get it back for the exact same cost. You're not paying more for it. A lot of these embalm cards are more than the casting cost.
Right.
And I think this is just great for all of those reasons. And it's a zombie bird. I love seeing all the combinations. We're seeing like zombie cytoplasms and zombie blah. And it's just like, I'm here for all of this. Like zombie all the things.
The zombie bird soldier is happening.
Beautiful.
So Wizards has brought back deserts. There are deserts back in standard that aren't dealing 1 damage to an attacking creature without flying. From all the way from Time Spiral. So they reprinted the desert back then, and everyone's like, "Oh, they're gonna make desert cards bad, blah blah blah." No, these deserts are cool. They're neat. They're interesting, and we have 2 of them. So let's take a look right now at Grasping Dunes. Grasping Dunes is an uncommon land / desert. It taps for a colorless mana, and for 1 generic mana, tap and sacrifice it to put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. So, at this point, clearly we're not looking at rare level power, but we are looking at sort of limited goodness in terms of shrinking what they have. There's lots and lots of -1/-1 counter things that trigger off this, which is going to be good. Again, so I see this more or less as a limited, interesting land.
Yeah, I was led to believe that quicksand would be a larger part of my life growing up. So I'm glad that this is trying to make up for that, as all these zombies are sort of falling into the depths. It's a good card. I mean, it's I'm not going to surprise anybody when I say I don't think it's going to make a huge impact on anything. It's a decent limited card. The fact that you can use the new green cycling guide to put a desert card into play untapped.
Monitor.
Yeah, which is a ludicrous thing to have on a card. But you could have a toolbox of one of these and some number of the deal damage to a player because it kills Saheeli mid-combo. And, of course, the other card that we have coming up, spoiler alert. But this card's fine. It's also a Wingding mana for your modern Eldrazi deck if you need an extra Wingding with some utility. So this is a pretty good card.
Well, let's take a look at what also creates your Wingding mana and is arguably better than this card, which is the common Cradle of the Accursed. It is a land desert. It taps for a colorless mana. For 3 generic mana, tap and sacrifice it. You create a 2/2 black zombie creature token, and you can only do this anytime you can cast a sorcery. So now your land is making dudes. So it's not necessarily getting all those really cool, sweet -1/-1 triggers, but you're able to make a dude out of your lands, and that's pretty awesome. This essentially lets you keep your creature count where you want it to be while still being a mana source.
Yeah, I like both of these lands. I think that, Gitrog Monster is a card that saw its stock rise once the cycling lands came out. And, if a land enters your graveyard, you trigger Gitrog Monster. And so these are both really great ways to trigger that. Splendid Reclamation was another card whose stock rose, being able to get rid of these cards and have them come back. Also, Life from the Loam shenanigans. Life from the Loam's now $25 a piece last time I looked. And being able to Grasping Dunes, get it back, do it all over again. I'm having flashbacks of dark blasting things. And so I think these are great. I love that. Zombies are also really forced so far. I know I said on Twitter that if zombies became standard viable, I would 100% play standard again. We've seen many great zombies, which we'll talk about tonight, but this is a way to, it's sort of like a man land, but it's a one-time, you get the man land, you don't have to keep reactivating it. And, there's plenty of things that benefit having zombies. And so I think there's a way that could see play. And even just about a lore standpoint, you're looking at it and you're like, what is that? What is the cradle? Is it like a vault? Is it a ship? What are we dealing with here? It makes you want to know what's in the box. You want to know what it is.
Right. And ultimately, and the last thing I'll note here is Noah Bradley, this is your artwork. So let's go see that high-res version, all right? Because I'm sure it's awesome. And I'm sure people want to buy prints of it, and it's going to be great. So because we have so much to talk about, I want to thank Wizards very much for our super cool previews.
Thank you.
We got sniped. That happens, but Rhonas is amazing.
We got 2 lands, we got an invocation, we got a token, and we got a limited all-star. So I'm super happy.
I'll absolutely take it, and thank you very much. And again, ultimately, and the other thing I see is thanks for giving us basically one of the, if not the best god, arguably easily near the top of the best god. So that was a thing. That was they didn't have to give us that. Could have just given us rare, because giving us something else. So that was fantastic. But we got to keep going because, Lord Almighty, you know what? I wanted to start here with the biggies. I just wanted to go ahead and just hit it, all the way to the rafters, and let's talk about some of the biggest spoilers so far. And I bring them up on the screen now. We have Bontu the Glorified, we have Liliana Death's Majesty, and Nissa, Steward of Elements. Whew! Let's talk about Bontu first. Bontu the Glorified is a black and 2 generic mana for a mythic god, a legendary god. It is a 4/6 with menace and indestructible. It can't attack or block unless a creature died under your control this turn. For a black and a generic mana, you may sacrifice another creature, to scry 1. Each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. This is the most Sam Blackie card I have ever seen in my life. I'm telling you, Sam, they just it's like, Sam, this is you, buddy. This is you on a card.
There it is.
Go get it. Just go get it. Go make it happen, because this is the aristocrats. I think are coming back. I think you have a new kind of weird Black Doom Traveler. They've got all this stuff with tokens, all this embalming, the ability for creatures to come back and be sacrificed. This guy is super huge. I feel this is the second best god. I think there's so much potential around this, and I think there's only going to be more and more synergies as Wizards takes a graveyard set and gives you a god about that benefits from things going to the graveyard.
Absolutely.
I think this is another one of those, we talked about skill level and abilities requiring more skill than others. And I think that, our god, Rhonas, is pretty obvious. Like, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out what Rhonas does, make things big, turn them sideways, trample, rawr. Bontu is one of those where I feel like the ceiling is a little higher, where it's like, it's beautiful, you can kind of see that there's something there, but I really feel like you said, it's going to take those Sam Black kind of minds, those Sean McLaren minds to really unlock everything you can do with this. And I think once the rest of us know, because I'm not even clear as to everything, then you're really going to see how much fun this card is. But just looking at it, you're like, it's cute, but then you're waiting for somebody to be like, oh no, this is what it can do. And I'm looking forward to that.
It also is found by Collected Company. I'm telling you, having these things be actual creatures is going to be an actual problem.
It's a big deal.
Zulaport Cutthroat is still in the format. I mean, the Cryptolith Rites even. I mean, there are still some remnants here of
Bloosterpood. Bloosterpood is still in the format.
Bloosterpood.
Yeah.
So, Reuben, how do you feel about this one?
I am desperately and madly in love with Bontu. I think that Rhonas is more overtly powerful. He is, as one of our chat members, I apologize, it's earlier in the chat, mentioned, he is ferocious because it's powerful or greater. But yeah, Bontu is less overt in how good it is. But yeah, I think that this card is amazing. The Scry 1 is going to be surprisingly relevant. When you have an Aristocrat style deck, being able to fix your draws becomes extremely important. I played a ton of Aristocrats back in the day, original style, and then extra crispy style with the Blasphemous Act and Boros Reckoners and stuff. Your 7-card hands in Aristocrat style decks look like crap. They just look like nothing happens. But your 11-card hands, your 12-card hands, once you get deeper in the game, that's when the diesel engine starts going. That's when you really start seeing all the pieces come together. Being able to scry every turn, basically, is a huge deal for a deck in this style. Also, we're getting another 2/1 that comes back from the graveyard named Dread Wanderer in this set. And I think that's going to be another big deal, that we have this zombie jackal that's going to be able to turn on Bontu over and over and over again. So yeah, I'm real excited to have another Aristocrat-style tokens deck. Black-based. We don't know necessarily if it'll be green-supported or red-supported or white-supported. Or even blue. I mean, there's some blue stuff. Although they've moved zombies away from blue. On Innistrad, blue was sort of the support color, and now it's more white. But there could still be stuff. We still got Innistrad in the format. So I really like Bontu, and I think that as much as I love Rhonas, I think Bontu is the one I'm more likely to play of the two. Let's not kid ourselves. I'm going to play Hazoret. That's like let's not be.
You're going to be putting guys sideways. It's fine.
I'm going to be indestructible, hasting people.
Right.
Because there's a lot of good red creatures in this set, which we'll get to later. But Bontu.
All right. So for those in the chat, I have put a link to the contest. It's going to end in 41 minutes. So get in there. Let me give you a copy of the Invocation version of Rhonas, the most powerful god. Super exciting, super cool.
Yeah.
Still have problems with Invocation stuff. That's okay, because foily, shiny, crazy coolness is still foily, crazy, shiny coolness. So regardless, that's the way you can do it. Links in the chat. Go make that happen. So here we are. Let's keep moving now to Liliana. We have Liliana Death's Majesty. This was the Gathering Magic spoiler, so I also got to sit on this one for a while and just be like, oh my god, guys, you don't even understand. Liliana's so amazing. 2 black, 3 generic mana for a mythic planeswalker, of course. It has 5 starting loyalty, so 5 mana for 5 loyalty. Plus 1, you create a 2/2 black zombie creature token, and you put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. -3, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature is a black zombie in addition to its other colors and types. And -7, destroy all non-zombie creatures.
That's quite the sentence.
You have your bacon, you have your cheeseburger, and then you put it all together at the end. You just make it happen. This card is amazing.
It's really good.
The art
is incredible. The first ability fueling the second ability. Like, you don't even need to have something in your graveyard for her to be great. She's like, okay, fine, whatever. I'll put something in there. Clearly, we already have Embalm. I'll go ahead and make the zombie token. It's cool if you're in the zombie deck for 5 mana. This is not.
Yeah, you need a top end in your zombie deck.
This has to just be you, right? This is just you on a card that they made Aaron Campbell Planeswalker.
I mean, so, when some little girls, wanted to be Barbie and some little girls wanted to be Skipper and some wanted to be a Bratz, this is what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to be sitting on a throne, getting fanned, eating fruit, and having dead things wait on me. Like, this is what
I want to be the zombie that's holding the fruit.
This is what I wanted to be when I grew up. And this is just everything. I think the art is beautiful. I think that she could easily be like even a one of in like the standard delirium list. I think that she could see. We really haven't seen a reanimator strategy in standard that I can think of for a while, and so this could possibly facilitate that. I love everything about this. I love that, like you said, Evan, the synergy of ability 1 feeling ability 2 and ability 3 not hurting you, like, doing all these really great things and you're just immune to all of that. A little pricey, but I think, maybe for everything she does, that's worth it. But I love everything about it. The name alone, like, I was thinking of changing my Twitter name to like Aaron Death's Majesty because I think that's great. And
This is very. It feels very much you. It feels very much.
This is what a planeswalker should be. Everything matches up. Everything's flavorful. Everything works together, and it's super playable. I mean, it starts at 5 and goes to 6 immediately, and protects itself while going to 6. Protecting itself with a plus ability is the new bar for me, rather than just protecting itself. Period. It protects itself with a plus ability while also milling, which fuels its minus ability. Just to reanimate is ludicrous. Just actual zombify. Which is absurd, it also protects itself. Like, if you just want to bring back another creature from your graveyard, then it just protects itself. And the ultimate is a one-sided Wrath of God for 2+ abilities. Yeah. Like, you do this 3 turns later.
Right.
Like, this is a ludicrously good card. Yeah. I think that, now I'm going to eat my own words here, but I think that this is power level on par, if not more powerful than Gideon. However, Gideon being 4 mana and this being 5 mana is a big step between 4 and 5, obviously. But this is certainly a centerpiece for a control deck as a finisher. It's centerpiece. It's a good top end for a zombie deck as a way to keep refueling yourself. This is just a ridiculously good card.
It is amazing. It is clearly going to run. I think this is going to be just one of the standard sort of, beyond Gideon Ally, this is going to be a big one. Now, if the next one, Nissa Steward of Elements, actually hits, it is a blue, a green, and X. X in our Planeswalkers. For the first time ever, there is an X in a Planeswalker cost. Oh my God. Nissa Steward of Elements is a blue, green, and X for X loyalty. So you go ahead and you just pump all you got in there, okay? It's cool. She has a +2 to Scry 2. Okay, that's fine.
Sure.
Her 0 ability, all the words. You look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card or a creature card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of loyalty counters that she has, you may put that card onto the battlefield. And her -6, you untap up to 2 target lands you control. They become 5/5 elemental creatures with flying and haste until end of turn. They're still lands. I want to make sure we catch that flying, okay? Because now she's making evasive monster lands. That's a thing. So Nissa can come down on turn 3 and immediately go up to 3 loyalty counters. And if only there was something that could work with her, but we'll get to that in just a minute. I just want to talk about Nissa by herself, okay? The ability to late game, rip this thing, put a ton of mana in it, -6 immediately, ultimate her the turn that you play her, which beyond the weird Gideons that we have, no other Planeswalker has really done or has been able to without something like, Doubling Season or whatever. So Nissa Steward of Elements is just all the cool, neat abilities. Now, your problem with cool, neat abilities is that she doesn't actually really protect herself. And that's actually really a problem most of the time for Planeswalkers to be good.
But, I mean, if you figure the combination of green and blue, the last green-blue deck I remember that saw standard play was when people were trying to make a Crush of Tentacles work. And so, if you have some kind of ramp bounce shenanigans, I feel like green and blue together don't have a difficult time staying alive or wouldn't have a difficult time protecting something. And I think that, while she herself does not have, like, innate protection, I feel like there are still cards available in those colors and possibly even a third that would facilitate that. And so I wouldn't be too worried about that.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. I also think that Nissa's variability, being able to be a 3 mana, 4 mana, 5 mana, 6 mana planeswalker, any point on the curve, not to mention being like an 8-mana fireball for 10 out of a blue-green deck is a pretty big deal as well. So I think that the malleability of and the I don't know, being able to play all the positions that Nissa, Steward of Elements can do is a big deal. And that will help its playability. And +2 is a really good way to protect yourself. You know, a lot of the other 3-mana planeswalkers +2, such as Ashiok. This is a really good thing in a control mirror. It's just +2/+2/+2/+2 every turn. It doesn't clock them like Ashiok does, but this is a really good thing to drop early in a matchup where you're not under a ton of pressure. Not to mention the fact that this Nissa, of all the Nissas, looks exactly like Ashlyn Rose, the cosplayer. Like, I feel like the artist just took a photo of her and just turned it in. Howard Lyon just took a photo of Ashlyn and turned it into this. It's a good card. It's a really good card. I don't think it's as good as Nissa. It's not Gideon or Platinum Gideon, New Gideon.
Right. Sweet New Gideon.
But it's still quite good. And I think that the big thing for me is going 8-mana 10U is a huge deal, especially in blue-green decks. So that's where I think that this can be a 3-mana or an 8-mana planeswalker.
Well, I want to add something on a Vorthos note. You know, you mentioned Ashlyn Rose, and this does look a lot like her, and she's a fantastic Nissa. But I also like the way that they've rationalized adding a second color in the storyline, where it's very obvious that she's kind of embracing this sort of blue, you know, because Nissa wasn't always known for being a very open-minded person. And so, you know, she's kind of opening herself up to new experiences, new friendships, and that's really where the blue comes in. And, you know, I think one of the complaints that people have had regarding the Gatewatch is that these people keep coming back time after time after time, and we're not seeing any growth from them. We're not seeing any like, oh, Lily's still bringing back dead things and Gideon's still unkillable. And so, you know, but I think this is really the first one that we're seeing show obvious growth as a person. And so, you know, I know that a lot of people don't care for the Gatewatch or they feel that they're kind of oversaturated, but I feel like this character development is something that's really been missing from a lot of the other planeswalkers. And it makes sense. And I think that's really well done.
I agree. It's been like ever since essentially Garrick, you know, like there hasn't been a lot of planeswalker growth. You know, part of, like, when you watch a movie or you read a book, those characters, they change or it's kind of boring. And Jace is kind of always the same Jace. And Gideon, kind of sort of always the same Gideon.
Chandra's angry.
Chandra does the boom boom with the fire stuff. Like, it's fine. And, you know, maybe one day we'll have, like, a mono black Jace because something crazy happened. Like, they try to do that again with Garrick, right? And that was kind of neat. And you can't really go that well all too often. But it's been many years now. But it is nice to see them going. So let's say you have Nissa, Steward of Elements. Okay, this card's really sweet. Let's say you played it on 3, right? So you played it on 3. You got your 3 loyalty. You've already scryed 2, so you kind of know what's on top. And on turn 4, what you really might want to play is Vizier of the Menagerie. It is a green and 3 generic mana for a mythic Naga cleric. It is a snaky dude. It is a snake. It is a 3/4 that you may look at the top card of your library at any time. Now, that, for what it's worth, just real quick, this is way better than having your top card of your library revealed, because that ends in endless judge calls, and the judges actually pointed this out really quickly. So, a 4-mana 3/4 that you can look at your top card at any time. You may cast the top card of your library if it's a creature card, and you may spend any mana as though, or you may spend mana as though it were any type to cast creature spells. So, with Nissa and then Vizier of the Menagerie, you can really combo all this scrying and looking at the top card of your library and seeing what loyalty Nissa has and seeing if you're able to line these things up so you're able to fire the right Nissa trigger, essentially. Because if you don't like what's there, you just scry 2, and that's great. And you're still able to look at the top card, so technically you could look at 3 cards with Vizier and Nissa working together. So that to me is very powerful interaction. Now, Vizier by itself is a fantastic, I think, limited, I think casual all-star. And that's the real thing. Like, casuals, there's absolutely no doubt that is one of the coolest, funnest cards that has come out in a long time. I know all the Commander players at work were just like flipping over how cool that card was. They can't wait to play it, and that's great, you know. But like, I like to you know, play 1v1 and in tournaments and stuff, and that's why I like to see what happens when cards are pushed to this level, if they can actually get there.
Can we talk about the art?
We can talk about that.
There's so much happening here. Victor
There is a
Adame,
lot
I love
happening.
him, but it's like you're looking at it and you're like, there's this cougar or a lion that's, calling your eye to that. And then there's like a Naga cleric, which you're like, what? And then you look and there's like an antelope below that, and it's holding, I think, like a little sheep maybe, or a little lamb. And then there's like a bird, and there's a bee, and there's just so much going on.
There's a lot happening in this.
And then there's like
very Descendants pathy for me.
Yeah, like it's very busy, but it works. Like you just have to take a second to like digest it all and be like, okay, did I miss anything? Okay. And then like when you take a step back, it's beautiful, but it's so much.
I mean, the other thing is, you're saying that this is a casual all-star. This thing's going to see constructed play, sir. I don't know where your head is at.
I hope so. I've been let down with really cool-looking creatures that just aren't as good as a Planeswalker, or not as good as something else at 4 mana.
Sure. But it's a 3/4 for 4. It has a Courser of Crufix-like ability that gives you sort of pseudo card draw, right?
Pseudo, yeah.
I've heard of people talking about this in combination with colorless lands that produce more than 1 mana in the older formats, things like Mishra's Workshop and Ancient Tomb and things like that, trying to make maybe a Nagatron thing happen.
Nice.
I think that the possibility is there. I think this card is very good. It's also just a 3/4 for 4. Like, it's got that Magic 4 toughness. It's 4 mana, which is a little expensive, but it gives you card advantage. It gives you mana fixing to a certain extent, and it's just a solid body already. So,
but being compared to Courser may prove to be a bad thing, in that, we're probably going to talk about this card, but Pull from Tomorrow, that's a card that on the surface is a good card, but it has really big shoes to fill in the form of Sphinx's Revelation. And so I feel like Vizier is good on its own. I'm not disputing that, but when people are going to be constantly comparing it to, it's not Oracle Moldiah, it's not Courser or Crufix, and I don't know if you're going to get people off of that mindset to really appreciate what this card can do and what Pull from Tomorrow can do. And I think, like you mentioned, that Reuben, that's a good thing, but that may also, people may not be able to get over it.
And that's a lot of human nature.
I think you can do worse. I think you can do worse than start a deck with 4 Vizier and 4 Rhonas. You can do worse than just start your deck with a big old beat down Green God, fun fest with those cards in it. So,
well, I mean, ultimately, and the way that people kind of react to spoilers, they try to put frames around it. They try to say, well, I've seen this ability, I've seen this mana cost, I've seen this type of thing happen, and I know sort of kind of how those abilities work and how they can take over the game and how powerful they are. And of course, everything's different when you actually play with the stuff. Like, it just there's always that feeling of like, oh, like after the pre-release weekend, right? And I think Wizards gets a huge kick out of this, because they're just like, hey guys, what was the cards that really overperformed for you, right? That no one saw coming. And it's like, oh my God, you don't want to believe X or Smuggler's Copter. That was the card that completely destroyed me in the pre-release. And I was like, that card is actually completely insane. And there's like, Evan, you're just so happy about it, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, dude, for real.
Here's the other thing about Vizier is, Courser had the drawback of you can only play 1 land a turn. There's no rule that says you can't just keep casting creatures off the top of your deck. So if you just got a bunch of 1s and 2s on the top of your deck with Vizier, then you can just rattle off, basically draw 3 cards out of nowhere. So, like, I think that this card has a lot of potential. It's going to have a tough time competing with the other 4-drops in Standard, seeing as we have, Gideon, ally of the best card in Standard, and Etherworks Marvel and things like that. But hey, look, if a creature's going to burst through, this is a good contender.
I think this, for what it's worth, and I saw this in the chat here, I absolutely think this is a cube. This is a very good cube card. This is you can draft decks around this card. You can make sure it works in your creature beatdown decks. Like, this card is a real threat, early and late. But let's go to the next card, because you know what? I want to thank whoever Will Smith's agent was to get him on Harsh Mentor. Because once you see Will Smith, you don't unsee Will Smith on this card. Okay,
I thought it was Tyson Beckford.
No, that's totally Will Smith. No. All right.
I don't see either one of them.
Harsh Mentor is clearly in the front running in my mind for the best rare of the set. This card is amazing. It is a red and a generic mana for a 2/2. It's a bear. It's a 2-mana 2/2. It's rare. It's a human cleric. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land on the battlefield, if it isn't a mana ability, Harsh Mentor deals 2 damage to that player. My God.
What's good, Sensei's Divining Top?
There's these formats. They revolve around things.
Yeah, you gotta love any card that gets better the older the format gets.
All the way back to our oldest format. There are lands, and there are artifacts, and there are things that do stuff that aren't mana abilities that this is going to destroy. Suddenly, you don't really care about Blood Moon. You're just like, Harsh Mentor, go ahead, bruh. And don't forget, this isn't legendary. You can play multiples. Can you imagine? Like, those have to die. It's not like, no, we'll get to them later. Blah, blah, blah. No. Harsh Mentor cannot stick around for most of the decks, or some of the decks like this. The decks that this affects the most, they cannot ignore it. It has to be Force of Will and Vintage. It has to be Swords to Plowshares. It has to be Lightning Bolted. You cannot get around it because it is not symmetrical. That's the whole Eidolon of the Great Revels thing. Like, well, Eidolon of the Great Revels is so great. Of course it's great.
Right.
But it's symmetrical. This one just screws over your opponent. That's a big, huge deal. This card is not messing around. I absolutely love it. Reuben, as sort of our de facto red player, how are you feeling on this one?
I didn't hear a single word you said. I was just dreaming about playing this card.
The Vapus.
I was just sitting here. Yeah, I was deciding where I was going to take it to dinner.
What a gentleman.
I love this card.
Are you going to marry it?
It's so
I
good.
might if it says yes, although it has a lot of suitors. I mean, like, every fetch land, Sensei's Divining Top, everything in Lantern, Inkmoth Nexus, every equipment, Kiki Chiki, Maze of Ith, like I can't express how good this card is other than to say we've been waiting for the red 2-drop that joins the pantheon of Stoneforge Mystic, Snapcaster Mage, Dark Confidant, Tarmogoyf. I think this card is it.
Like, it just destroys Affinity. Nice Affinity deck you got there, bruh.
Yeah, it destroys lands, it destroys Affinity, it destroys Lantern. I mean, there's a ton of decks that you cannot win through.
I think
a 2/2 for 2.
I think the timing of this card is perfect. For those of you who play Legacy, there's been a deck that has been gaining in popularity that is simply called Check Pile. It is a greedy as hell 4-color list that's running Leovold and Lightning Bolt and Deathrite Shaman and Force of Will. Maybe a Wasteland or two, because why the hell not? Who needs a mana curve? We don't. And that really has that's where Legacy is at right now. And so for a card like this is what perfect timing, that just as Check Pile is sort of becoming more popular, this card comes into play. And I need some Reubens here. For all you people who love your Deathrite Shamans and you think your first ability is going to get you past this, Gatherer tells you that Deathrite's first ability is not a mana ability because you're targeting a land in the graveyard. So even this, you think you're fine with your Deathrite Shamans, this is still coming for you. And I'm completely here for it. And everything. Love it.
This card it's right now it's like $10. The foil's like 25. I don't see those numbers going down anytime soon. This card is just going to be so cool. The one of the real cool things about this card is that it exists. I know that sounds really dumb, so let me explain it. The fact that this card exists means that there is a whole swath of players who will not play a certain thing because this card exists. Why would you take Miracles to Miracles to a large Legacy event? Large Legacy events
this card exists.
Doesn't even happen that often. Like, why would you bring in something when they have literally the perfect silver bullet for your deck? And oh my God, you don't have the Swords of Plowshares or whatever. You're done. That's it. GG. Like, you have to kill that thing. Your game has stopped. Because this card exists. Because it exists. Why bring Lantern Control? Why even subject yourself to
I won't do it. Why would you bring lands? You have to rebuild lands in Legacy. Which, by the way, lands is the, for my money, either the first or second best non-Force of Will deck in Legacy. Like the 4-color Loam or the 3-color aggro Loam decks are insanely good. You have to rebuild your entire deck to deal with this card. You have to add extra Cabal Pits and Barbarian Rings and whatever. I mean, theoretically, the 4-color deck, I guess.
Cabal Pits.
I mean, I guess theoretically you can just play like more Punishing Fires, but like if you think that Punishing Fire is going to be the way to beat a deck that has this in it, I got news for you, friend.
It's game changing.
This is a huge game-changing card. Absolutely.
It is. It hits the right, and also, and just real quickly, it doesn't hit cycling. I think you mentioned this.
Does not hit cycling. Does not hit planeswalkers.
Right.
So it doesn't shut off Saheeli combo. It doesn't shut off cycling.
Right.
Which, if it did, it would be ludicrous and horrifically bad mistake to be printed in the first place.
Yeah.
That would be too much. That'd be a bridge too far. But we're to that point where we're like, Young Pyromancer was sort of the current. It's the current
Young Piece
red
is
card.
champion of 2-drop red creatures. Yeah.
Right. But this guy just demolishes it. Again, because there's literally not been one player who plays competitively who has not brought this up to me in some form or fashion over the past couple of days who works at Cool Stuff. Let me tell you, everyone's like, oh my God, what am I going to do about Harsh Mentor? Like, I can't even play my deck anymore. I can't even play my deck. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah. So, Aaron, I do have good news. It does not shut off ad nauseum.
Oh, I knew that. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah, both the decks that I play are not really faced by this card.
All right, so let's go ahead and...
Eidolon is still going to be in a deck with this card. The other thing that's interesting is the colorless and a red lets it be way more castable in Vintage, particularly when you're playing all the Moxen. And, I mean, it doesn't really affect Modern too much because the only way that you can cheat this thing out is Simian Spirit Guide.
But think about that, Reuben. Think about it in Vintage. Mox, paradoxical outcome. Think about that and taking 2 every time. You can't.
Well, it doesn't stop mana abilities of the artifacts, which the Moxes do, but there's just a lot of things that this card does.
I mean, it's...
and it doesn't even... It exists. It exists.
The fact that it exists is lovely.
It's beautiful. It's amazing. Wizards, you got it. And... So we got to keep moving.
I'll try to line up the wedding with GP Vegas.
I swear to God, we're gonna have a ceremony and everything.
I want to see you biting off the garter of the Harsh Mentor.
You come here, Harsh Mentor. You so pretty.
Well,
all right.
First of all, if you think I'm biting the garter off of Harsh Mentor, we're gonna forget that.
Samut, voice of a soup of keywords.
Yes.
Samut, Voice of Dissent, is another mythic. It's a green, red, and 3 generic mana, so it's a gold mythic. And for that 5 mana, you get a legendary human warrior. It is a 3/4 with, let's count them, flash, double strike, vigilance, haste. Other creatures you control have haste. And for 1 white, because, Naya. Who cares?
Pretty sure that's a typo. I'm pretty sure that the white man is a typo.
1 white.
Why the hell not?
Tap : untap another target creature. So the exerting doesn't exert as much. And so what we found with creatures that have keyword soup on them is that they are amazing. And this card is amazing. This card is going to be ridiculous. It's weird to have flash and haste, but I don't really care because that's fantastic. Reuben, how do you feel about this monster?
I don't know what to think about this card. I mean, a 3/4 flash with, let's pick Vigilance. 3/4 flash Vigilance for 5, already playable.
Yep.
3/4 flash double strike for 5, get up there.
Oh man,
flash
double strike.
haste is weird. I think there've only been like 3 creatures that have had flash and haste. One of which is it Staticaster, so like that kind of makes sense. And then another one was Raging Kavu, which doesn't make sense. Like having flash and haste together doesn't make any sense. But I'll move past it. 5 mana 3/4 flash to fairy stats, already probably good enough. Then you have all these other lines of text. It's ludicrous. Also, the fact that the typo happened, where they put a white mana symbol on this thing by accident, means that you can play Naya Commander humans. Right? So you have your human tribal guy for your commander, which I don't think there was a white, red, green human lord. Well, not lord.
I don't.
You know what I'm talking about.
But yeah, I mean, the commander version, or that's commander to legend and all that.
And oh, by the way, Fervor, all other creatures you control have haste.
Oh, also, Rhonas gets this, makes it a 5/4 double striking trampler, and turns on Rhonas. Okay, it's real clear about how
this doesn't turn on Rhonas. This is a 3/4.
No, when Rhonas' ability hits this, it turns into a 5/4 trampling, double striking, vigilancing, untapping dudes.
Vigilancing.
Vigilance is just so hard. It cannot unvigilance. It is just, it's there. It's happening.
This card's ludicrous.
This card is sweet. This card is super duper duper sweet.
She's also really important to the story too. I've been reading the stories, which we're going to talk about a little later, but she's the one that really kind of sets off the alarm bells in the Gatewatch that all is not what it seems, and it'll be interesting to see what exactly is going on beneath the surface. But it seems like she's really the one who kind of starts it, and that's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool story-wise, and this card is just, again, when you see this many keywords, don't sleep on this one. This card is really, really good. We got to keep going. So
looks like it dies to Doomblade, so.
There is, oh, wait. That means it's terrible. Sorry, guys. It dies to removal spells. We're all good here.
Better wrap everything you just said.
All right, we're going to turn the corner to the finish. Well, so next up we have the confirmation that Hero's Downfall is not coming back, and that is with Never and Return, also known as Never to Return. Never being 2 black and a generic mana for a sorcery rare that destroys target creature or planeswalker. Okay, you have your Ruinous Path-esque because on the other side of this card, the Aftermath version is Return. For a black and 3 generic mana, you have a sorcery, and it has Aftermath, which you cast from your graveyard, and then you exile it. It exiles target creature card from a graveyard, and you create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So you have, okay, sort of like a weird Ruinous Pathy thing, but Ruinous Path isn't really played right now, so that's really awkward. And that seems to be kind of where everybody is. It's like, okay, this still isn't great Planeswalker answers / removal. So okay, what else you got, Wizards? Like,
Shaheen Sarani, I think, was the one who tweeted it best, and he says, he said, "Never is the number of times that I'm going to play this card." Something to that effect. I'm pretty sure it was him, but I saw it and I just died.
Wow.
It is unfortunate that colorless black is the correct cost for this effect, but sorcery speed is too bad and instant speed is too good.
Both of these things on instant would make this card fantastic.
Well, yeah, I mean, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, etc.
We'd all have a Merry Christmas. That's right.
We'd all have a lovely Christmas.
But ultimately, it is a super good card in terms of like limited. It's going to be amazing. I think in casual, it's great and it's a great option. It might. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near cubes. It's just not as good as good old fashioned Hero's Downfall. And sometimes we just kind of want good old fashioned Hero's Downfall.
Right. I mean, it is a decent way to sneak in graveyard hate into a cube. If you don't want to have dedicated graveyard hate in a cube.
Sure.
It's a clever kind of way to do that, to hose a reanimator strategy, but that's besides the point. I think this card's fine. Like, I think it's better than Ruinous Path. Having a halfway decent secondary effect from the graveyard is good, and people very rarely used the secondary kicker effect on Ruinous Path. Obviously, it's no Hero's Downfall, because what is? So I think that this is a card that I think Never is a low number to say that Shaheen Sarani will cast this card. I would put the over-under at half of a Never in Shaheen Sarani's standard career with Never to Return.
Wow. Look, no matter what, it is clearly the best line to come out of this card, though.
It is the best card. It is the best line.
That line.
It is worth tweeting the line, regardless of whether or not he's telling the truth when he's saying it.
Yeah.
So we got to keep going. We only have 13 minutes before midnight. We're going to choose a winner. It's going to be great. Vizier of Many Faces is a 2 blue, 2 generic mana, rare shapeshifter cleric. It is a 0/0. You may have Vizier of Many Faces enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except if Vizier of Many Faces was embalmed, the token has no mana cost, it's white, and it's a zombie in addition to its other types. It has Embalm of 2 blue and 3 generic mana. So this is double clone. This is double clone at basically original clone's price. Original clone was a blue and 3 generic mana. This is 2 blue and 2 generic mana. So it keeps you in blue pretty solidly. This is an absolute limited monster bomb. It is possibly good enough to see constructed because to get a clone once is great. To get a clone twice, to be able to use, for example, in a black-blue control deck, to be able to use Liliana to make a zombie, and then you mill over this card, you pay 5 mana, and you copy whatever the best thing they have is. That's really powerful, and I would be okay with that. So we've seen so many different types of clone effects. And we've seen where you've been able to like pay 4 mana and pick one up, and you've seen one where it copies any permanent, and that's really cool. But 2 clones in 1 card is no joke.
Absolutely. One of the downfalls of clones historically has been that you don't really necessarily want to cast them on curve, because there isn't always something super powerful on the board on turn 4. This doesn't have that problem. This thing, you can just copy whatever's out there. Then when it dies, later in the game, you can copy the most powerful thing that's happening. So there's some interesting depth to this card when you can just sort of run this out there now and not have to worry about wasting your clone effect, which I think is a really big deal. Also, the fact that all of these, I think a lot of these creatures, if not all of them, are clerics in addition to their normal types. Shapeshifter Cleric is a weird combo, but it makes me wonder if there is a Cleric Lord of some kind coming down the line, or a Cleric effect happening to combat against zombies, maybe? I don't know. I just think that, we saw the Vizier is a Naga Cleric. We see this clone is a Shapeshifter Cleric. I mean, the Vizier of Tumbling Sands, which is part of the cycling uncommon cycle with Renewed Faith, is a human cleric. So there's a bunch of random cards that are just also clerics.
I'm ready for that set. Cleric tribal action. I'm
sure.
ready to see it happen. I'm really
it
excited
hasn't
about
happened
it.
Since
Onslaught,
like Misery Charm and Edgewalker. We go.
Old.
Hold out Edgewalker.
We are old. Let's keep going. Glory-bound Initiate is a white and a generic mana for a 3/1. It is a rare human warrior. You may exert Glory-bound Initiate as it attacks, and if you do, it gets +1/+3 and gains lifelink until end of turn. An exerted creature, by the way, won't untap during your next untap step. So, for this 2-mana creature, you could get attacking 4/4 lifelinking on turn 3. If only there was this enchantment that gave all your creatures a bonus and vigilance on turn 3. That's weird. So, Always Watching, if you don't recall, is a Shadows over Innistrad rare for 2 white and a generic mana. It gives all your creatures +1/+1 and vigilance. That's a big deal. That's a huge deal. That makes this a 5/5 attacking lifelinker every single turn until you kill it, and you put a whopping 2 mana into it, and you're running more than one copy. And there's plenty of things that are untapping creatures anyway, if you're really worried about exerting it, for example. So it's not like you don't have the Always Watching and you just lose and it sucks. Like, no, it's okay. It's still a fine creature on its own. Aaron, how do you feel about this one?
It kind of reminds me of, what was that card? My brain just died. It kind of reminds, oh my god, it was the one from Prowess 2/2, cast an instant, gives you lifelink.
Seeker of the Way?
Thank you. It kind of reminds me of Seeker of the Way a little bit, which was really annoying back when I played Standard. I love the art on this more than anything. I know it's the art that Star City's been using to promote GP Richmond, which I think is beautiful. It very much fits in with the white weenie theme, and there's always a home for white weenies.
Wow, you couldn't even get that one out. You think you can? You can't do that. You can't do it straight. It's fine.
I heard the giggle coming from
and
a mile away.
And because Magic players are Magic players, let's note, Always Watching only pumps non-token creatures. Sorry.
Correct.
Okay.
Oh, well.
That's okay.
Can't have it all.
It's all right. Reuben?
Yeah, I mean, this card's amazing. I mean, Blade of the Sixth Pride on steroids. It's worth noting that you don't have to exert this. Like, just attacking with a 3/1 on turn 3 is oftentimes good enough. And then once your opponent has a blocker in play, once your opponent has a Vizier of playing creatures from the top of your library in play, then you can make this a 4/4 and attack through it, and oh, by the way, gain 4 life. This thing is a pretty powerful effect. It's another powerful 2-drop human. I'm not sure that this is going to be able to push warriors to the point where we can have a warrior deck. They've been trying to do it for a while.
You're all about this class thing, ain't you? You all about
Hey, man, I'm a Kithkin guy
at heart.
You're
so classist, Reuben. Jeez.
I apologize. It's just who I am and where I was born. So I think that this card is great on a bunch of levels. I think that the Always Watching idea I think is top notch with this card. So I mean it's right up there, if not the newest top slot of 2-drop white creatures. The problem, of course, being 1 toughness, right? You have Shock, you have Magma Spray now. You got a lot of -1/-1 counters in this set. Right. So it's a little difficult on that end, but for Constructed, depending on which way the metagame shifts, if those -1/-1 counters don't end up doing too much, then this card is stock up.
Is the Stone Cold Nutter and the Butters.
It's quite good.
It is incredibly powerful. But we gotta keep moving as we do, because there are more things to talk about than just stories.
Yeah, we ran out of time for the spoilers. We know there's a bunch of spoilers. We're out of time.
There's even more. Yes, these are some that we wanted to pick and sort of talk about. There's plenty more to talk about, of course, but we got to keep moving. There was a thing announced today about Amonkhet and Magic Online. Now, Magic Online is now earlier than ever and able to play in pre-releases, which is awesome. Now, sometimes, and I've been in this situation, Magic Online players used to have to wait weeks, used to have to wait 10 days, used to have to wait 1 week, and then as these timelines kept kind of getting shorter, these release events kept getting shorter, people got more and more excited about it. And now, the Monday after the pre-release, they're going to have Amonkhet release events on Magic Online, and that's really cool. However, and there's a few things about this. Let's talk about the first was, they explained their banned and restricted timing. This is great, actually. This is actually juicy as all get out. It's juicy because it's funny. Because they explain here, this is what happens if things get banned, and this is what happens if nothing gets banned. And then they put in bold, right there, in the thing, please do not interpret the existence of the plan as Wizards planning a banned and restricted list change. How dare you? How dare you speculate on what they're doing? Because that is totally not cool.
Horse Pucky.
Exactly.
That is
an
awesome sentence.
It is a terrific sentence. But how do you guys feel about Amonkhet showing up early on MTGO?
100%
I like it.
Positive, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I like it. I admit I don't play a lot of Steel, but if I'm understanding this correctly, that means that you'll have the cards available too. And so for people who are trying to, practice for GPs or practice for Pro Tours, they can start testing right away. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Okay. Of course, the cards will be a lot more expensive at the very beginning, but that's what always happens.
Okay.
It is what it is. You'll do whatever it takes to get your 4 Rhonas, so you can start playing your new deck as soon as possible. It just is what it is.
I think that's a huge boon.
Absolutely.
Also, everybody, Cube. Just letting you know.
Cube's
happening.
Cube is actually happening right now, the Legacy Cube.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It happened right now, and it closes in like 2 weeks. Like it's out for a long time, which is awesome. And that's all I care about when it comes to Magic Online, personally.
That mythic prestige avatar, I would sell my father to science for that Liliana avatar. That is dope.
Wow.
That is a sentence.
That was aggressive.
I love that sentence, though.
I would put my mother in the glue factory if I could get this digital bit. It would mean a lot to me.
So there's a lot of great things that are. I mean, it's only good news to have Magic in paper line up more with Magic Online. It makes the cost of the packs online make more sense. It makes the metagames match up better. It allows, like you mentioned, Pro Tour players to test for a longer period of time in one of the only ways that a lot of people can test. Not everybody can, go to a beach house with 24 of their closest friends who are also 24 of the best Magic players on the planet to all test the format in actual paper. Some people have to resort to Magic Online in, wherever they live in the middle of Canada or Siberia or wherever. And some people also just prefer to play Magic Online and get the real testing from strangers and not necessarily have that face-to-face. So that is all positive. I hate that, once again, weirdly, the invocations won't be in packs. Like, I hate that. The packs cost the same as live packs,
right,
and yet they are a different product. I hate that.
I mean, there was a whole thing, and of course we've spoken about this before, but there was a whole thing of, there is a part of the limited metagame for this set in real life where, for Kaladesh, for example, you got a Soul Ring. Like, that's the thing. It's rare,
right,
but it's not that rare. It's actually, it happens and will affect multiple tables at a Pro Tour. It will happen and affect multiple tables at a Grand Prix. Like, that's a thing that can happen. And for Wizards, it feels like for Wizards to focus so much on having this exact same experience, Lord knows you're paying the exact same price, and not even just the exact same price. You ain't getting no discounts. There's no sales on packs on
right.
Magic Online, by the way. It's just flat deal with it. They introduced Fun Bucks. It actually ended up really well. I think play points,
sure,
also known as Fun Bucks, worked out really
Disney
well.
dollars, yeah, they're
Disney
great.
Disney dollars are good, so that's good. So I'm glad, actually, because I was really scared that was going to screw up everything, but it actually fixed things. So high five, that's great. But this, I kind of really lost my train of thought on here. Ultimately,
Invocations and packs.
Thank you. Invocations and packs are ultimately a different experience from what you see in the real world, and that's annoying.
It's stupid.
It just feels wrong. I just don't understand it. They're like, you have to get rid of treasure chests. I'm like,
it feels very too.
What's the problem? I don't know what the problem is.
Why can't you? Why can't you pull it out of both? Why can't you both get it out of regular packs and out of treasure chests? Is there a problem with that?
They're just Porque los dos, exactly right. Just get the Del Monte girl in there. Why? Like, are they hard to program into Magic Online? Is the Egyptian text like very difficult to program?
Wow.
Is that the problem?
I mean,
look, if we're gonna throw shade, we're gonna throw shade.
The shade is coming, y'all.
So it's like
they don't see the sun.
Like, what's the problem? Is my question. And if you can explain to me what the problem is, then and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's a reasonable problem. Then sure. But if the problem is I don't want to, type in the pixels, then that's not a good enough answer for me, because you need to make the game the same. It's not Magic Online anymore. It's Magic Online minus some things from this set that we're announcing.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So it's just weird again to have. On one hand, it's amazing to have release events the Monday after the pre-release. That's
fantastic. Great. We are 90% in favor of the MTGO from the past week.
Absolutely. And Wizards,
it's more, 98%.
I just feel like if someone out there is listening, it's okay to say, you know what, we probably shouldn't have done that. We should keep them in invocations and packs because that's a part of the experience, and we don't want to take part of that experience away from you. Yes, they could still exist as a bonus in treasure chests, and that's great, but why have a different experience? It freaks me out. You can't do it. You can't open them in limited. You can't open them in sealed, in leagues.
They're in treasure chests, but they're not in packs.
So
they programmed them in. What's the problem? I don't get what the problem is.
Few others do. Okay, so let's talk about some other interesting controversy is a word, but let's just talk about some interesting other stuff that happened today. And oops, I have us on the wrong slide. We're still in Gathering the Townsfolk. So Wizards had a story come out today. Okay, there was another story, and first cool thing is that if you notice the background images of the 3 stories that have been posted so far, the sun is getting closer to the horns. That is awesome. Wizards, that was
and
beautiful.
You did the horns. That's awesome.
I know, right? Get too close to the horn. So it's great. That's really sweet. And this story is about this part of the story. And again, spoiler warning. And okay, if you wanted to read it, you probably would have read it this morning. And if not, It's okay. Skip about 5 minutes. I'll be done. The story revolved around the planeswalkers that are on Amonkhet kind of roaming around Amonkhet and checking it out and seeing what's going on. And Nissa having this experience of like, something's wrong and something's weird and the land is speaking to her and it's hurting and something has to be done and she can't handle all the pain that it's going through and some other things came to light. And again, it's okay if you want to put us on mute because spoiler warning, because I feel like we got to get it out to give the context of what's happening. Okay, so ultimately this plane existed before Bolas existed, before Bolas came to it. This was a plane that Bolas came to and did things to, not necessarily, and I'm trying to find the story now, and it's really hard because Wizards' website. But Nicol Bolas came here later. There's evidence that happened, and ultimately they have a run-in with a god, which is really interesting. And Chandra and Nissa kind of go on this kind of like, buddy-buddy tour through the city and go look at stuff. And they have a moment. Sure. Now, I feel like it's not a real big, shocker at this point that Chandra kind of got a thing for Nissa, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. That's all good.
It's been alluded to in a couple other stories. Yeah.
Hashtag Nissandra.
Hashtag Nissandra, guys. Hashtag Nissandra. And you get to a point in the story, and I'm bringing it up now, where there's this kind of moment between Nissa and Chandra and talking about friendship and is friendship. Chandra shifts awkwardly and says, so friendship is about the limit of what you feel comfortable with right now.
God, I have been Chandra so many times.
Oh my god.
Everybody has hashtagged cruel friends in the chat, and I couldn't be happier.
So good.
Both chats did it simultaneously, and I'm just the happiest person.
Oh, cruel friends. Or cruel friends rather. So we have Nissa blinks, okay? And Chandra worked very hard not to stare. Yes, Nissa said. I suppose so, comma, given everything in hand.
Oh,
and
Nissa.
Then Chandra gives that like, oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Then they move on from that point.
And that's how it is. Okay, so ultimately, this happened. Okay, this was published this morning. Everyone thought it was really cool. Everyone liked it. The story was great. Like, the professor is on there on Twitter being like, this is one of the best stories. I'm in it now for Amonkhet. Story is super cool. Right. And when he says that, I'm like, all right, cool. I need to check this out. Right. So I checked it out. I thought it was really cool.
It was great. It was super cool. We wouldn't be talking about it unless...
Literally would not be talking about it right now unless Wizards had to go and retcon it. Now, didn't they? So let's bring that up, shall we?
Another weird choice. But like, okay,
it's really weird. So we have this story edit. So I read you what the original was. So let's go over here to Chandra shifted awkwardly. So ... friendship ? Nissa blinked. Chandra worked very hard not to stare. Yes, comma, Nissa smiled, and.
That was the end.
That's
like
it.
That was the retcon.
That was the and it wasn't really a retcon, almost as sort of an excision, or an excising. It was completely removed all of the sort of the nuance from that scene. Here's what was cool about that scene, at least in my opinion, which was there was a real vulnerability. Chandra was actually kind of putting herself out there, and there have been, and if you've certainly went into the world of dating and relationships, there's a point where you're like, do you like me? Can we do this? And however that forms in this scenario was them being in the middle of the city. They're looking around. They're talking about being friends. They're talking about being there for each other. This is a really cool moment. There's a moment where Nissa essentially kind of lets her down. Doesn't really kind of realize it. I don't know. There's this weird, like, she isn't aware that Chandra likes her, but it's really obvious. But no. Yeah. Instead, you just glossed right over it at that point. So friendship? Yeah. Okay. What? Like that's it. There's no moment of like, that sort of anticipation, like, oh my God, maybe is this going to happen? That's all gone.
I'm of two minds on this, because I think that had the second version been printed, I would have liked it better, because the original version kind of just punches you in the face with it, right? And is very like, do you see it now? Like that. Whereas this version is more like a natural conversation. And I think that the pause and the awkwardness makes more sense in terms of how this conversation would play out if two real people were in it, I think.
But don't you want the two real people thing?
Yeah, I do. However, when you publish it first and then you change it, and it looks way different. You're way less overt. You're way understated. By comparison, the shortened version, even though I prefer the shortened version personally from a storytelling perspective as a writer, usually I'm like, less words the better, and that's exactly the same thing here. When you publish the first version and then replace it with a version that seems like it was just sort of slapdash replaced with yes, okay, then that's when you get into awkwardness, and that's what I don't like about the retcon here. I think that it's been obvious for a while that Chandra is a bisexual person who's attracted to both Nissa and Gideon. Nissa is just oblivious. Gideon is sort of staying away out of being a nice person because he doesn't want to turn her down, I guess. I don't know what the deal is there. But, it's sort of been played out in other storylines, specifically in Kaladesh when they went to visit, like, the party. If you recall this, when they went to go visit the Aetherborn that could... Yahenni, who could suck life out of people with her hand. There were some other moments similar to this, not nearly as overt. And I think the issue is the retcon. I mean, it's just like a weird editorial decision to go back and change it.
And we'll get to the official response first, but Aaron, tell me how you feel about all this.
So I agree with Reuben. I think it looks worse than it is, and it's a little confusing because Wizards has obviously made some pushes in terms of creating diverse characters, and they're all about, they want to get a more diverse audience, and there's this message of inclusivity. That's the word, right?
That's the word, inclusivity. That's the word.
It just didn't sound right coming out. And so this is something the fans obviously want. I mean, we saw it with our chats just now, where even the mere mention of it caused, this hashtag to come forward, and my Twitter feed has been excited about it, and my Facebook wall, and the Lady Planeswalkers group, and this is something people are really, really into. And this article, a lot of people took to mean that Wizards listened to us. They saw how much we wanted this, and they're going to give us this opportunity to watch this relationship play out. And it was very subtle, and it was very wonderful. And for it to be taken away in real time, with the push of a refresh button, you see it happen. And, when they say things like, well, we edited it, or, it wasn't the final version. But as far as I can tell, this was the only correction that was made. You have to wonder, where on the one hand, you're saying we want inclusivity, we want to have a diverse audience, but we're going to take away the one LGBT aspect of this story. It does look a little disingenuous, and it probably looks worse than it is. I certainly don't think that the editors or the authors have any bad intentions, but when you take away the only queer aspect of a story under the guise of editing, and apparently no other sentences or no other paragraphs were corrected. If they were, feel free to let me know and I will apologize. But if that's the only thing you're cutting out, it does look funny, where, you're saying you're removing all these things that were wrong, but this is what you got rid of. What else are people supposed to think about this? And you can't say that you're all about diversity and inclusivity and then get rid of the one, blazingly queer part of the story. It just doesn't really add up, and it's a little curious.
Sure. So
but like I said, from a story writing perspective, I do a lot of copy editing, and most of my job as a copy editor is to remove a bunch of the excess words that people put in for no reason, or some reason, but not a good enough reason.
Sure.
And there's an old saying that says, "I wrote you a long letter because I didn't have time to write you a short letter." Right? So a lot of this, I believe that this was an earlier edit. I believe the story because it makes sense to me from my editorial perspective. But you're right. It's a real specific point in the story to have it be the only thing that was changed.
I could see if they had taken the proverbial red pen, we've seen before with our school papers, where this is underlined and that paragraph is done, and if that had been, all over the place, then yeah, I could see that. But this appears to be the only thing that was changed, and it's well,
let's talk about some context here, okay? Because there have been some questions about articles and when articles are written and how early they have to get them in, and they have to get them in early, and they can't change them sort of on the spot or on the fly because they have to be translated into so many languages. There's a bunch of translations of these articles into different languages. Okay, fine. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and read the official response. Now, the official response on their Tumblr, someone asked, not to sound accusatory, which it's all right to be right now, which is all too easy to be right now. What context can you give about the line change in the story today? They answered, our articles go through rounds of editing that take into consideration length, style, localization, and other factors. There's that localization I was talking about. This morning, we accidentally posted an earlier version of the Magic story that was not the final version. Once we realized the wrong version was posted, we swapped it for the most up-to-date version. The change was simply a part of the editing process. The intent was not to change the context. Well, here's your problem. I think it changed the context.
It did.
And when it changes the context and you say you didn't mean to change the context, that's a problem. And I swear to God, there's no way we would be talking about this if they hadn't done it. If they had not gone back.
If they had printed version A and just left it, or if they had printed version B and just left it, we wouldn't be talking about it.
Absolutely not. So
we'd be talking about it in the pre-show probably, but it wouldn't be a subject that closes out Magic Mics.
It was all my feed was talking about today. They were memes. It was everywhere.
Memes were so good. Oh my God. The replacement memes of weird, mine says this, and it was Chandra walks up to Nissa slowly and says, whatever. I couldn't think
Netflix and chill was one of them.
Yeah, exactly. So,
DTF question mark. Come on now.
ASL.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of insane because, again, I really thought it was a cool moment. I thought it was great. I think Wizards made a mistake changing it for a variety of reasons. And again, if your line is, we didn't mean to change the context, you change the context. I don't think that's
we move on. It's not that big of a deal. I'm fine with I'm okay with the change. I see why the change was made if the explanation is the same. However, if they're trying to snow us over with the explanation, then that's a different problem.
Yeah.
I see it from their perspective, and of course I don't want to go full conspiracy theory. They did this because they're trying to squash LGBT themes or characters or whatever. But again, just in the future, it's a really bad idea to do that because just pot commit and just be done with it and let it happen.
Okay, so do we like Nissandra? Let me see the other ones that were in the chat. We have Channel Fireball.
The Girlfriends is amazing, by the way. I didn't get that.
Girlfriends is
I like
spectacular.
Girlfriends, but every time I hear Girlfriends, I think of the sitcom Girlfriends, and all I can hear is my Girlfriends. I'm just like, yes, I'm completely here for that.
Somebody else wrote one. Somebody else mentioned that there was one that's NSFW, but I can't find it. You'll have to go look that one up on your own. I'm sure there's a Reddit thread about all this.
Before we turn the corner, I want to say congratulations to Mr. Matthew H., who entered and has won a free copy of a Rhonas the Indomitable Invocation version. Matthew, you are from Arizona.
Our preview card.
So you know which Matthew I'm talking about. Our preview card, you got the invocation version. It's super sweet. It'll be brought to you by your friends at CoolStuffInc.com, and we'll ship it, of course, when the set comes out. So congratulations there.
Pigeon.
We had 992 entries, which was pretty cool.
Wow, jeez, 992.
Absolutely, and that was in
our
our good 40 minutes.
We want to do this weird, like, people can type things on the screen thing that you were talking about?
I don't think anyone.
992 is a lot of people.
I don't think anyone used it. Anyway,
it'd be like pop-up video gone horribly awry.
Exactly.
Apparently, you could have had you watch. Was it on tonight?
Yeah.
This was a thing they could have done.
This was on.
So you could have typed words on our screen on YouTube, not on Twitch, on YouTube,
right?
For some number of dollars.
We have super chat. Super chat's what it's called. So if you want that, you want that spotlight, that's where you can get it.
You got literal 90 seconds of it.
But oh man. All right, so I've got to have you guys talk for just 2 more seconds while I fix the last slide. Go ahead.
Okay, I gotta go find the other nicknames here.
Find the nicknames.
Channel Fireball, Gruel Friends. Let me see if anybody else typed in any more here. I'm not seeing any more. Okay. Wildfire. There we go. Hashtag Wildfire.
That sounds like the name of a bad Harlequin novel.
All right. So we can now officially, thank you for the fill there, turn the corner to the finisher. So this week is Passover, the Jewish festival of the release of the Jews from Egypt. A fact I just learned because Reuben wrote this joke. Seriously, bro, you think I didn't sit through 1 million viewings of the 10 Commandments as a kid?
Look, I wrote the joke, and it was just really funny in my head to have you read that.
It's pretty good, because I'm just going to...
That joke was for me.
I'm just going to run... Okay. But this Passover is different from all other Passovers because this Passover will also celebrate the release of the Amonkhet set from Wizards of the Coast. So on this happiest of holidays, do you have anything you'd like to get off your chest, Reuben?
Well, I have to admit something. Release it, if you will. It's kind of a big deal, and I don't really care how many Twitter followers I lose as a result of this, but I like pineapple on my pizza. I said it.
No.
Pineapple pizza.
No.
I ordered Hawaiian pizza. I like
Put
pineapple
that on
on
your
my
Tinder
pizza.
profile. See how many people swipe you after that.
Yeah.
I'm not putting that on your profile. Are you kidding me? I would never get swiped ever again.
Turn off that hat mojo. You can't do that.
Cancel out the hat.
Yeah, dude. That's the perfect anathema or anathema or anathema.
Anathema.
Wow. Come on, vocab.
Ding, ding, ding. Aaron?
Fact remains, I'm eating pineapple on my pizza.
That's gross. Okay.
I have a confession to make. I love red cards. I'm sorry, I do. I love burn spells. I love 2/2s with haste. Just don't tell Big Daddy because I'm still on that demon ride or die.
Wow.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, the big dog.
Tizzle.
There you go. So the truth comes out. Well, let me tell you. I think this is a good time to tell everybody out there that sometimes when it gets late and I'm all alone, I tap the cards even when I don't have to.
No.
Even when I don't have to.
F it. Even when you don't have to?
Even when I don't. Sometimes you can't help yourself sometimes. It's a thing.
Is that how you got 5 kids?
You think you know a guy.
Is that how you got 5 kids?
Yeah.
Wow.
Tapping cards when he doesn't have
Wow. That's how it works, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are. White weenies. Remember that.
Yep.
So that ends another episode of Magic Mics. Thank you guys for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you to our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com. My co-host, Aaron Campbell. Thank you very much for hanging out.
Thank you for having me.
Rubes, thanks for hanging out.
Shalom!
Shalom!
And goodbye in Hebrew.
Oh, okay.
It's like aloha.
It's like aloha, yeah.
Very nice. All right, so I'm going to move on to our final slide. That ends another episode of Magic Mics. Thank you guys for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. You visit our website at magicmicspodcast.com that exists thanks to our Patreon supporters. Or follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe, do everything social that tells people that we exist. Catch us online at twitch.tv/magicmics, on Twitter at magicmicscast, on Reddit at reddit.com/r/magicmics, on Facebook at facebook.com/magicmics. Talk to us privately at magicmicspodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at magicmicspodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.